Estás viendo Canal América, televisión dominicana para el mundo.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your fears.
Welcome to our Time for Truth show. It's a pleasure to have you with us again. I'm your host, Dr. Bernard Fialkoff. And in today's show, we're going to go over something really that we've been living for the last year and a half, which has been a tremendous global disaster. And we have a very, very interesting guest today who basically takes care of disaster relief internationally. And so this is a show that's going to be very applicable and useful for those of you out there viewing the show. So let's introduce our guest today, engineer, and bring his pictures up on the screen. Mr. Ayal Lindeman, who is a native of Queens, New York. And if we put his pictures up on the screen, and we will show him to our viewers. He's a global humanitarian and disaster relief lead volunteer minister for the Church of Scientology. Mr. Lindeman holds professional degrees in nursing, emergency medical response, and community response. He attended CCNY, Orange County Community College, Queensborough Community College, Rockland County Community College, and pursued advanced training in agriculture. Ayal has held positions in the Rockland County Critical Incident Stress Management Team, CSIM, with FEMA, with ICS, and IMS, as well as being hazmat trained and a FEMA field representative. Mr. Lindeman has the distinction of being involved and participating in the relief as a 9/11 global instructor, community bases first response team, clinical member of the Archangel Airborne, of the Haitian American Nurses Association, of the University of Miami Project MediShare, of the Haitian International Nurses Association Disaster Response Board, Spring Hill Community Ambulance Corps, and over his 30 years of professional emergency response experience, he's been recognized by the Federal Emergency Management Association, FEMA, the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, HANA, Orpheus International, the Church of Scientology, and the University of Miami MediShare for the Caribbean. He's lent his vast experience at major disasters such as Hurricane Floyd, the blizzard of '93, the World Trade Center 9/11, the hurricanes during 2004 and 2005, including Sandy, Irma, and others in Haiti, Japan, Philippines, Africa, Nepal, and also in U.S. forest fires. His specialty is coordinating NGOs for synergy and asset deployment, connecting those with the assets and supplies with those agencies who have specific delivery capability, as well as air and ground transport assets. Amazingly enough, Mr. Lindeman has traveled over 160,000 miles doing his disaster relief. And it's our pleasure, there you have Mr. Lindeman on the screen. And engineer, if we can bring him up on the screen, I want to welcome Mr. Ayal Lindeman. Hello, Ayal.
Hey, Dr. Fialkov, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, and you?
Doing good, considering everything that's currently going on.
Absolutely. As I said at the beginning, it's been quite a disaster, but let's go right to it because I know you have a lot to share and it's very important information. So what I wanted to ask you, number one, because I see you have so much training, what started you out in this field of emergencies, of disasters? What was it that motivated you in that direction?
More than anything else, my parents. My mother, people would say, let go, let God. And my mom would always say, God's busy and put us here for a reason. And we need to be helping and assisting our siblings. And I felt that it was better to know how to do things when you needed to do it than just be there and not be able to do anything. So I did advanced first aid in 1972. Actually, I'm sorry, 1970. And, learned about wilderness first aid and CPR and things like that way back in the day. And as time went on, I felt that I needed a larger skill set. And so went for more training, became an emergency medical technician, went for more training, became a nurse. Working with other groups, wanted to learn things like the incident command system, incident management system. FEMA now requires that even for New York State certification as just a basic emergency medical technician. And have had the blessing of being in these situations where you work with and meet, and I've worked with and met tens of thousands of people that are all like-minded. People always talk about how bad and selfish and this, that, and blah, blah. And that's not my experience. My experience has been that, I forget the name of the movie, but there was a line in a movie that said, humanity is at its best when things are at its worst. And that's been my experience. And luckily over the years, I also found a number of groups that I've worked with, but the Scientology Volunteer Minister Organization, and it is a group of people that are there working and helping and wanting to help and wanting to improve conditions to help and assist others in need. Because when you have a disaster, we're kind of educated to think that we should base our life on what we own and what we have and what's all around us, and our car and our job and our house and all these things. Well, the reality of the situation is that literally it's all gone. It looks like your entire city was put in a blender. And when I was down in Mississippi with Katrina and Louisiana, they were hit by a 96-foot wall of water that folded over and was traveling at almost 100 miles an hour. And some places came inland 10 miles. And, as this one woman in Louisiana said, it all tow up. It tow up from the flow up. And it was. Everything was completely and totally obliterated. But in the Emergency Operations Center and the ground zero for Katrina, which was Hancock County, Mississippi, the gentleman in charge of volunteers and donations had a sign above his desk that said, if you lose everything but keep your faith, you've lost nothing. And that really is a very valuable statement, because you can lose everything, but if you keep your faith, if you realize that you are a spiritual being, if you realize that you put it there once in the first place, you can always put it there again. And if you hold true to that, and if people come to help you and they are like-minded, then it isn't a question of being depressed or being this or being that. It's like, okay, how do we rebuild this? How do you put it back? How do you put it back better? And how do you move forward with your life? And that was one of the very special aspects of the volunteer minister program, is they have all these literally tools, not just helping you muck out your home or being medically trained so we can do appropriate medical attention and first aid first, or work with other groups of doctors and nurses, but also bring things to assist you and help you, and help you to improve your life and have those things available and do that as well.
Absolutely. Well, you know, I think it's fantastic that you and the group, the Scientology volunteer ministers, do what they do. What I was going to ask you, you know, we all basically want to help, but there's a reality of resources. So I wanted to ask you something, is because I saw that your group and you as a lead of this group have gone to so many different disasters across the globe for so many years. So where do the funds come from to actually continue to help humanity? Because this is not something that's being given by governments or from some grant. So how is this happening?
Well, the Church of Scientology goes to its members and asks its members for donations. There's nobody wearing a gold Rolex or even a gold Timex. 100% of the money that's donated goes directly into getting it back out and helping people. And so, like with the earthquake in Haiti 11 years ago, we put together chartered jets. We partnered with other organizations. We helped get medical doctors, medical supplies, nurses, paramedics, emergency medical technicians down to Haiti. And then we also had volunteer ministers from around the world helping and assisting and going down to do support work. The Haitian American Nurses Association, which I'm very proud to be a member of, actually acknowledged one of the volunteer ministers, because as one of the chapter presidents said, this woman was washing my dirty scrubs and cleaning my underwear so I could go and take care of patients. And that's what we'll do. What's ever needed and wanted, we'll support it, and we'll fix your food and make your bed and take care of you, take care of what's needed and wanted so that people can do their jobs and do their jobs better and just focus on their job. Currently we've got volunteer ministers helping with the wildfires out west. We have volunteer ministers down in Haiti helping and assisting there. We have volunteer ministers in the Gulf Coast. We have volunteer ministers in New Jersey with the flood. And we've had volunteer ministers helping out around the world with the entire COVID situation, basically using a material called Decon 7, which is like biowarfare level of decontaminant. It's like, a lot of the stuff you buy is like 99.9%. This stuff is like 99.999%. So having people specifically trained, having the personal protective equipment, and then having the ability to safely use this material to decontaminate schoolrooms, police buildings, fire departments. In South Africa, they were a lot of public transport was in these like taxis, and they needed them. People who had vital jobs didn't have cars, so volunteer ministers would go and train others in how to do it, but also be trained themselves and certified themselves in how to do it, so it could be done safely and they could be safe, because it doesn't do any good to become something that needs care yourself. And
I'm going to say to you, it's amazing, because it's offering relief and it's offering what has to get done, and it's such an important point. And I know from the materials you sent me that this COVID program was this Stay Well program, and I think it's fantastic that the volunteer ministers are doing this Stay Well program that's actually free online. Engineer, what I wanted you to do, Mr. Lindeman sent us a video, and if you could put that video on screen for the viewers, I want to show them the video of that he sent us, and let's get that going so they can see about the volunteer ministers worldwide. And go ahead and put that on. Yes, and in the meantime, what is the link while that's getting active, Mr. Lindeman? What's the link that people can go to?
Well, the materials are all free as far as the training and the tools for life that were put together. Mr. Hubbard's the one who put this together. As I mentioned, I consider myself very lucky. Back in 1977, actually, there was a handbook that was created. A handbook is a guidebook or concise reference manual on a subject small enough to carry about. It's a mouthful, but like the Boy Scouts handbook. So here are all these tools and assets that anybody can have. There are courses for them as well. It's all free. There's no charge.
Okay,
for
you
any
know
of
what?
it.
We'll continue this in a moment. I want to show your video, and we're going to put it on right now. Well, there you go. The link that we were talking about, it looks like it's volunteerminister.org, and quite interesting video. What I wanted to ask you is, when you go to disasters and you give aid and you do what's needed and wanted, I also saw on the video that some of the ministers do some type of, it looks like helping or massage process, or what is that I was seeing? What is that?
Well, it's volunteer ministers, plural, with an S.org. As I said, it's all free. The material's there for anyone. And what you're talking about basically are called assists for illness and injury. And again, always first aid first and appropriate medical attention. But these are things that have been found that are very simple, basic, easy to learn techniques. Excuse me.
No.
That anyone can put to use and anyone can learn to use. And they help individuals. One of them is called locational assist, which just basically brings somebody back to the present time environment. Another one is called the nerve assist, which helps open up the nerve channels in the body for communication, get some muscles to relax. Another one's called the touch assist, which again basically gets an individual back into communication with the body through the nerve channels. They're non-manipulative. There's no pressure being done. It's basically very gentle, light touch. And they're just really, really helpful. I mean, I've personally done thousands of them and trained, I don't even know how many, well over probably 20,000 people and had to do them. Like I said, the information's on the website. It's absolutely free. And these are, it's basically the volunteer minister program. The analogy I use, it's like if you're heading down the highway of life and you get a flat tire, that kind of stinks. But if you know how to use a jack to lift your car, and you know how to use a lug wrench to take the nuts off the tire, and you know how to get the spare off, from the back and then get the tire off and the spare on, you basically get back on the highway of life and continue traveling. And those are good skills to have. But the other benefit of the volunteer minister program is that when you hit a flat tire on the highway of life, these are skills that you can not only use for yourself, but you can use to help and assist others. And our motto is, no matter what, something can be done about it.
Amazing. Well, you know what? That definitely helping people out of shock, helping people out of their losses, you know, is so important. As a doctor myself, I know that one of the things that I concentrate on with my patients is getting them out of the doldrums, the downs, the stresses, the anxieties, the depressions. So, you know, I really give you kudos, and really the whole group, because I've seen how the volunteer ministers have gone all over the globe. And, you know, I know many people recognize the yellow shirts, the yellow, you know, coats, the yellow rain smocks of the Scientology volunteer ministers. And we've come to the end of the show, but I want to tell you, I want to congratulate you for all you've done, Ayal. Thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, you're welcome, and thank you for what you're doing. And again, www.volunteerministers.org. And take a look. You know, there are a lot of tools there to help and assist in many, many areas of life, because the truth of the matter is disasters can come to either side of your front door. And there are tools here to help and assist you, help and assist your family, help and assist others. And I just consider myself lucky and honored to be able to be a part of the group.
Well, it's a pleasure having had you on the show. And for our viewers who were there, I think that the volunteer ministers set a great example, how they raise the funds, they make the time, and how we treat each other as companions, as shipmates, as friends, realizing that the planet, basically planet Earth, is like one big ship, and that we're all on it, and it's wooden, and we got to keep it whole so it doesn't sink in the ocean. So thank you for being on the show. Thank you, volunteer ministers, for what you do. And for those of you watching, you can check it out at ScientologyVolunteerMinister.org and check out some of these courses that Mr. Lindeman talked about. And for this show, I want to bid you a good day and see you on our next episode of A Time for Truth.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your feet